Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, and welcome to TFYLP. We are live for Monday, August 3rd. I'm Lucas, and I am here tonight with Christian.
What's up?
Rob.
Hi!
And an empty chair. So,
I'm
Zaldron...
Cherry the Transformer.
So Zaldron was like, well, if I knew I was on tonight, who was on tonight, I would have started a pool with, who would spoil the show or whatever to start off with. And Zaldron, to answer this, we don't even know who's going to be on the show until it starts, because originally Anna was supposed to be on, and she may come on halfway through, but then she had something come up, and then Paul is supposed to be on as well, but apparently it's pizza time, so he's he's trying to scruff down some pizza real quick before coming on the show. So
all I know is that chair better start carrying its weight. It's some quality content.
Nobody gets on the show for free.
Oh, I'd like to preface with, if you see me checking my phone today, I'm not being rude. I took notes on my phone, and so
I'm a professional.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
No, I'm old and I forget everything, and so when I was like, oh man, I need to take notes if I want to be on the show, so I remember what the hell to talk about.
Yeah, so we're doing the Transformers Netflix show tonight. So we're going to talk about that. So the idea is that we were going to talk and give a non-spoiler review during the first half and kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about. And then, say spoilers, whatever, and then kind of get more into the show of what we liked and didn't like and all that. So we'll see how it goes if somebody slips up. That's what Zaldron in the chat is saying, that he's betting that we're all going to slip up earlier than when we say spoilers. So I guess it probably depends too on like what you define as a spoiler.
I've seen some people freak out. They're like, oh, you mentioned a character that shows up without any ceremony. Like, you got to draw a line somewhere. But I suspect anybody that's that particular though has probably already watched it.
You would think, but a lot of people are busy and all that. I wanted to watch it a second time, and take notes the second time, but I didn't actually. I just got through it once, so time ran out of me. So,
well, my notes are completely thorough and exhaustive, and have every interesting detail point that anyone could bring up. 100% complete.
This is why we have you, Rob.
Well, he won't share them with us, so Rob will be the smart one tonight, and the rest of us will be doing the best we can.
It is my time to shine.
Bro, you got your own show on Wednesdays. What do you mean?
My time to shine. That's what it means.
Okay.
But this is normally how it goes anyway. Obviously, when you're listening to the show, I'm usually full of it. So, if you're looking for actual information, usually the other cast members, I try to bring people onto the show that actually know something as opposed to me. So, but
in future episodes, we're replacing Lucas with a bot. Just going, yeah.
So, welcome, Paul.
Greetings, pagans.
I kind of liked the chair. The chair was rocking it.
Chair was doing really well.
Yeah.
It's wearing my Asuka hoodie right now, so
I liked it so much, man.
I was surprised at how well informed that chair was. You would be surprised.
What kind of knowledge did it drop on you guys? What I missed?
Everything. the show's actually over. It was really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, we kind of finished up. I mean,
Lightspeed.
Little did we know, Zaldrun was wondering who was going to give spoilers out. It was the chair. So
chair.
It was the chair.
yeah, it was a surprise. So
Where should we start?
The chair really does like the swivel waist effect seen in the show. Commandeered and originated by this show.
Man, I was trying my best not to be like pedantic or nitpick about things, but the second I see this rigid metal grill sway and it's just like, you can't help it but twitch a little bit. I don't think it's a big deal for what it's worth, but you notice it at the same time.
Fine.
It is fine.
I didn't think it was that big of a thing. I actually really like the animation overall. Like, I mean, it's probably one of the better animated things. I don't know. I just really like that look of the toys and the cell shading and but then it was kind of like a weathered, worn in look and whatnot. Like, actually, that was one of the it was a nice, refreshing surprise, like after the Combiner Wars thing, because I was kind of worried with Rooster Teeth after the last thing they did that this wasn't going to be that great a quality. But apparently, if you pay for more, you get more. So
cell shading.
I mean, I don't know.
Whatever. Like it had the outline thing going on.
Yeah, like a little bit. Like it was like a 3D. I don't know. Like, what would you describe it as, Paul? Like the animation?
Outlined. It has a stroke around the characters. That's about it. It's not cel-shaded in any sense of the word. I'm not complaining about the show. I'm complaining about that description of this animation.
I mean, like, I know how
cel-shaded.
Well, it's not.
Was that a question? It's very much not cel-shaded. It's textured. I mean, then that was actually impressive.
Who's calling it cell shaded? Where I missed the part where this came from.
No,
it's not.
But I had said earlier that it had somewhat of a cell shaded look to it. It wasn't, but I'm saying that it kind of blended together like different styles to where it wasn't just fully. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was its own thing. It was kind of unique.
It's its own thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like. A lot of the animation these days, like that my kids watch, it's that sloppy animation style that they have, like the Steven Universe, like whatever kind of thing. And it's nice to actually have something that like looks different. Like it looked unique. It did not look like other animated shows on other platforms.
I thought it was interesting that it was actually branded as an anime. Which, at the beginning of every episode, it's like a Netflix anime. It's like, I mean, in so much in that anime means animated show. Okay. But.
Yeah, that was a bit suspect.
Yeah. But
I
again,
feel like anime fans would be very upset if you called that an anime.
There wasn't near enough misogyny in there for anime fans. So you're going to have to ratchet that up. I say that after watching like 1.5 animes. So I'm an expert.
I didn't even pay attention on the show. What was the rating on this? Like, it's not on Netflix Kids, is it?
I don't know. It had 2 light swear words in there.
Some of the themes that were in it, I think, were somewhat mature, I guess. Like some of the things that they I mean, it's war and there's bad things happening in war and whatever. And some of those types of things that happen during it, like I think would be
TVY7, whatever that means.
That is the lowest possible level, I think.
Really?
And this is one above.
I guess I'm going to go search for it on my kids' account and see if it pops up.
That's saying it's suitable for kids 7 and up.
Okay.
I don't know, man.
Rob, going back to something you just said, or one of you said something about how they had like 2 swear words.
Yeah.
That first one like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Like it's Wheeljack saying something about.
He says
I don't even remember.
Yeah, he says someone's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
like, yeah. And then later on, somebody says, "You damn fool." I remember the scenes, but
I just felt like there was a lot of stuff in this show that I felt like it was produced by someone that deep dove on Transformers in a few weeks and didn't really understand why. Like, oh, okay, it was cool when he said, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now in the movie?" That was a big deal. So let's like do that again. Let's do that once. Like
twice.
Well, I don't even remember the second one, but the first one I was like, "Wow, that was out of place." Wheeljack, that was a little bit wild.
I don't remember either of them, oddly enough. But my example for that philosophy that you just said, someone deep dove and then wrote it in an afternoon or whatever, is how many times they use the word seekers. I mean, I guess they're just like, seekers are cool, and now we're going to talk about them all the time. Which is great and whatever, but like, geez, besides people saying this war over and over again, seekers is the second most used word.
On the one hand, I want to agree with you, but at the other, it's just it's just the way it's written. It feels like, like they're a big faction in a sense. They're a subgroup and it's formalized, and it'd be like if you had the Wreckers in there. How are they going to have the Wreckers and not mention the Wreckers?
I'm not saying don't mention them. They mention them every third word. It's like, okay, guys, that's maybe a little bit too many times to drop that.
I kind of get what you're saying, because Seekers was historically kind of a fan term, even though it did originate from a something in a Sears catalog. But like when it actually is canonized and put in the script, it's a little overbearing, because it's kind of a weird name. Like, it doesn't really make sense for what they are. Like, the Jet Force would be maybe better. Or maybe worse. I don't know. I'm not a writer.
When the Autobots are like, watch out for those Seekers overhead, and Starscream's like, hey, Seekers, let's go. And Jetfire's like, hey, all the Seekers, let's go. And it's like, okay, maybe say something else. Like, Jet Force is very good. I like that one. Just leave it out. Watch out for the Decepticons overhead.
It didn't bother me.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that much. Yeah. But I did think it was interesting. Like, they called out a couple items from the IDW comics, but they didn't really like use them that much. It was almost kind of like, oh yeah, we're going here, or do you remember back on, whatever kind of, a couple different items.
I think it's good to sometimes not always explain it all. And given that we only had 6 episodes, and at least they were 6 full-length episodes, it felt like there was a lot of backstory left to tell us about, which I think is positive overall. Yeah, a lot of stuff was kind of like, I remember the battle at Tarnhouse or whatever. Like stuff just kind of like name dropped. They didn't go the deep dive, but like obviously Megatron is influenced from his IDW version. And I think that's good in that we can kind of know more about where that goes. Not that the IDW stuff is canon to this, because it's its own thing. But at the same time, someone fresh coming into it doesn't need an exposition dump. They get the gist. And there's 2 more series coming for it, following it up, as long as they don't get canned. And, it gives them a way to play with it and to learn more about it.
Do you think that, like, jumping in at the point that we jumped in, like, with this show, like, of the war, like, do you think that they should have done like more flashbacks and more exposition as far as like what had led up to kind of like show the stakes and kind of show like how they had gotten there? Or are you happy with like where
it definitely needed more? I have a friend outside of this. He doesn't know Transformers very well. He knows that I know Transformers, and that's about it. He was watching the show because it was popular on Netflix last week when it showed up. So he was watching. He's like, "Hey, I'm watching this show. I'm gonna let you know what I think anything that's going on." And I think we get a little bit jaded because we know generally what Transformers are, and he's a complete neophyte and was very confused.
I feel like it really could have done with the Last Airbender style intro before each episode. Like, and then the Fire Nation attacked. Like a really quick meme-tastic like intro that's, lightning round. That could have been it could have benefited from that, but
it should have had scrolling yellow text.
I mean, I think overall, like, I thought it was fine, but, like, I mean, it's not like the story was that complex or anything like that you would have trouble following it. It would have been nice to, like you said, for new people that they would have kind of figured out, like, okay, well, this is kind of how we got here and whatever. And maybe they'll do that later on in the show. I mean, obviously this is just the beginning, so I mean, there's still a lot of
what if it had
episodes,
started with the narrator saying, "It is the year 2005, and the war has been raging on."
This war. They have to say this war. Don't
this
forget.
war has been raging on. Like that.
I think one of the worst things they could have done with flashbacks is to do what Cyberverse did, where it's like half and half all the time, and it keeps switching back and forth. That was super annoying to me. It lost me the 3 times I've tried to watch Cyberverse.
Oh God! And if they would have had Bumblebee, if they would have had Bumblebee like lose his mind again or whatever, his memory, oh Jesus! Like that, I don't think I could have stayed another story like that.
Hey, that's on the positive level. Bumblebee could talk again.
That's like my biggest.
Wait, is that? Hold on. We said we were going to spoil. There you go. Paul did it.
That's not a spoiler. That's like in the first 10 seconds.
No, you told that to the chair, guys. Not me. So is that? Are we going no spoilers for a little while?
Yeah.
Yeah, just for a little bit. Oh, sorry.
Good thing we brought that
Paul.
up before you're like,
Yes,
we all died.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to. I was trying to say vague, just for like. So the idea is like the first half of the show, we're gonna kind of give our thoughts overall, like without spoilers, and then kind of get more into the story in the second half. So then that way, some people, if they wanted to watch or listen to or watch part of the show, and they haven't seen all the episodes yet, then they can without doing that.
To your
I'm
question,
down.
Lucas, about like, do we think we should have jumped back more? I would say no, simply because this matches the toys. Like that's what has set the pace. Is this was Siege. This is the storyline for the Siege toys. The next toy line is Earthrise. So it's going to be
talk about that later.
Yeah.
Let me put a pin in that. I want to talk about that.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like the trilogy is based off of this current trilogy of toys.
So I guess just
everyone else
overall,
just freezers at me.
I know we've been going for a while or whatever already, but like, what is your guys' overall opinion of the show? Did you like it? Are you ready for more? Like, are you good, or are you like, man, this sucks? Like, this is a disaster. Where are you guys at?
It's
worst
fine.
show ever.
Christian, you go first, man.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not very good. It's not horrible. It's the best Transformers show we've had since Prime ended, unless you count Rescue Bots, but I've not seen that, so I can't factor that into my decision. But it's been running forever. Anyway, it's fine. It's a good place to build. I mean, you can build into a good show from fine. You can't build off of trash. After what we saw with Prime Wars nonsense, expectations were not very high, and it got over that low bar. So as far as Transformers shows go, it's pretty middle of the road. I mean, we have great stuff like Beast Wars and Animated. We got horrible stuff like Prime Wars and Energon, and Siege just fits right down the middle.
What about you, Paul?
I'm pretty much in line with that. Overall, I think it's a good thing for the brand. I think it's going to have a good effect on people, recognizing Transformers and like nostalgia people watching it. Like, hey, there's a show on here. It's great. Let me check it out. But I don't think I think it's going to be hard for people to get through the first episode. I felt like the biggest sin of this show was it was generally boring. Like, not a lot caught my attention. I liked the intro, which I have it on right now in front of me, and the little intro thing that lasts for about 10 seconds. I was like, "Ooh, this is cool," but there's like no audio with it. Whatever. I was disappointed for sure, but I was like, "Hey, people are gonna like this show. People are gonna get this," and that's ultimately what I care about, because I don't think I'll ever see a piece of Transformers fiction that really like resounds with me as a super crusty fan. I'm too close to it, so I'd give it a 6. out of 10 or something. I don't know. I think that's pretty close to like what you were saying, Christian. I agree with generally everything you said. So there's definitely a lot to like be negative about, but it's not so bad that I'm like, ugh, this sucks. So I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I watched it.
I liked it more than you two did, which, usually I feel like I'm the more, like anything mainline anymore. I'm just like, nah. It wasn't a chore to watch, which is more than I can say for anything in a while. Like overall, I probably liked it more than Prime, and anything since Prime I haven't bothered with. It is humorless though. Like, make no doubt. And me and Anna were debating that earlier in Discord. And now I get annoyed as much as, probably, a lot of people, where it's like anytime there's a show that has like any serious moments, boom, they drop a joke in the middle of it. There's like always that, and it always is distracting. It's always very forced. And so it's not like I want that. I don't need where every bit of tension has to be broken up with a joke. And I understand, like, the show is bleak. The show is dark. It is night the entire time of the show for the most part. And, it's an oppressive mood, which is what they're going for. So that's fine. But it is just so humorless all the way through it. And I feel that there's plenty of great Transformer shows that are well regarded by corners of the fandom, if not, the fandom as a whole, that have plenty of humor. Like Beast Wars has plenty of humor on it while being serious when it wants to be as well. Like Waspinator is totally a joke. Rat Trap often uses comic relief. And everybody in there has just like little funny bits and how they interact and whatever. And the show had some good character moments, I thought, and some good ways to see some of the characters interact. But there was just no humor, like, really at all. And it was, but again, it wasn't a chore to watch. I felt the middle kind of dragged. The last couple of episodes, I was like, oh, cool, I'm ready to watch the next one, which I haven't gotten in a while. So I thought it started off slow and dragged a little in the middle. But the end, I was like, cool, I want to see what happens. I'm ready to wrap it up. So that's a positive. I mean, I'd probably put it like a 7 or an 8. It's definitely not a 9 or a 10. And I'm looking forward to the next two. So, or at least the next one. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way as you, Rob. Like, it held my attention, and I don't know what it is, like why they haven't been able to make engaging Transformers media for a while now. Like, we were so spoiled, like, in the middle 2000s, with animated and even with Prime and with the Transformers video games, like the War for Cybertron video game and whatever, to where, all this stuff was, really engaging, really cool and all that. I thought that this was better. Like, I've never been able to get into Cyberverse. Like, RID, I didn't really enjoy. Like, I tried watching both of those with my kids, and I just felt like neither one of us, really were like, oh man, we had to finish this whole thing. And we were never there with those shows. This one, by the time I got to like the 4th or 5th episode, like, I was like you, Rob, where I was like, all right, I want to see what happens. And I kind of had an idea as far as like what was going to happen. Like, they, it wasn't like there was going to be a huge twist at the end or anything. But like, I thought that overall, I thought it was pretty well done. Like I said, like, I think that the animation was good. One thing, like, at the same time though, like, I thought that some of the voice acting was not the greatest. Like, I thought that a lot of the characters sounded too similar to one another, and they all were very gravelly. Like, I don't know, like, that's why I feel like this whole gritty thing, there's like everyone has to talk, like, they all talk slow and gritty and whatever. I did think that there was a few standouts. I think the voice actor, whoever did Megatron, I thought was good.
Megatron was great.
The Starscream was really good as well.
Frank nailed it.
Yeah. So yeah, which I think both
Wheeljack was good as well.
Both of those guys have done like Transformers shows in the past, though. I thought the Optimus Prime was not the greatest. Like, there were some moments where it wasn't bad, and then there was other moments I was like, oh god, this is not.
I felt
not
the biggest
thing.
I thought the Prime was serviceable, but it wasn't great. It fell off a few times, but I think the biggest problem is that he wasn't like, hey, I'm going to do Optimus Prime. He was like, hey, I'm going to do Peter Cullen.
Yep,
and
that's exactly what the problem is.
He should have made it his own. Like, David Kaye has done Megatron and Prime, and he did them his own way, to where he's now like a de facto voice for, some of those interpretations. And I think it would have been better served to just, let him run with it. Like, I don't necessarily know that he's like a bad voice actor or anything. Just he was just doing Peter Cullen, and he shouldn't have. It showed. I thought Jetfire's voice was a little off too. It didn't really fit for me. It was, I don't know. It sounded like a big snake or something. Like a snake is wrong, but it just sounded too hissy for me, or whatever.
I've had a couple days to think about it since I finished it, and I kind of think more than the voice acting was not great, the voice directing is primarily at fault.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you get everybody sounding the same, because you have a director that says, okay, sound this way, and then doesn't adjust performances later on.
But I'm curious, and I don't know when things were recorded for this. I think voice acting these days, a lot of them do it on their own rather than in a room together. And so I think that it could have really helped if they were actually there as a group, or if they had I don't know how they're doing it, if they're piping the other voice in when they're, kind of giving the dialogue, or how that works. I mean, I feel like talking to a lot of the voice actors nowadays, they have a microphone that they bring with them and, find a good spot to do it at sometimes, or, sometimes they're able to grab a room somewhere, but, I think that's the one thing, hopefully, that they kind of, work on more for the next episode, or for the next.
Am I the only one who had a really hard time understanding Soundwave?
Oh my god!
Yep. It was bad. I had subtitles on because I have them on for my mom these days, and that's the only way I could understand what Soundwave or Sound Blaster were saying.
Sound Blaster was 100 times better than Soundwave.
Yeah.
I mean, agree with that.
I understand they want to. I love that they wanted to do the old effect and throw in the old effect, but it was just too echoey or something, and it was just I got the gist of that. It's good enough. Yeah.
It might have been rushed. Who knows? I mean, there was, this whole thing took longer to come out than they wanted to. They blamed it on translating, but
let's finish up some voices real quick.
Okay.
A
couple. J-Zack is mentioned in the chat, and I agree with him that he said he didn't care for Ironhide's voice.
Oh my God, no.
That is a case explicitly, I feel, of voice casting or direction being wrong.
Ironhide talk.
Well, they messed up. Yeah. They gave it to Hound, and they also were trying to do John Goodman Hound at the same time. And then Ironhide became Sissy Ironhide or something. I don't know what to call it. It just wasn't Ironhide.
It just has a normal person's voice. It didn't have a character behind it.
Yeah,
it sounded like me talking. Yeah, it was Fred.
I kind of like
Charles.
Cog's voice.
Whose?
Cog.
I don't remember his voice.
Okay, he talked
positively
a lot.
or negatively.
He had a voice.
Yeah, I thought Alita 1 was good.
Alita 1 was good.
Yeah, Alita 1 was really good.
I thought RC was good.
About subtitles, though, anytime any female character makes a noise, it's Alita does this. When they grunt to shoot or get shot or whatever, it's always Alita does the thing. So whoever did the subtitles was not paying attention. Just brief fun fact.
One thing that I'm curious, did you guys think that the 6-episode arc was a good length, or would you have liked to have been, longer, 10 episodes or whatever, or do you think that, did you like what we get? My only thing with that is I know a lot of shows on Netflix kind of suffer from, that it's really a 6-episode arc and they stretch it out to 10 episodes. So depending on the story to tell, if they would have just thrown more dialogue in there or whatnot, and stretched it out a couple more episodes, I'm not sure I would have liked that. If they would have thrown some flashbacks in, it might have been better, but
I feel like if they had made it 10, they would have been stretching it, but I feel like there was a lot more story they could have told, because it didn't feel like it really started off with, hey, here's a plot point, and then we resolved it by the end. I mean, some things got resolved, obviously, but it really did feel like an incomplete show to me because of that.
I'd agree. Was there even a siege to speak of in this?
No one was ever under siege.
There was like a 2-minute siege where they turned on. Never mind. Not spoiler.
Well,
as I say, we haven't
we gave
switched
all our
over to
opinions
spoilers
now,
yet.
so we could probably dip into spoiler territory.
No, I'm not
I'm
going
trying to think. Is there anything
There was no
else
siege though.
before?
That's not a spoiler. That's a commentary.
But before we I guess say spoilers and whatever and get into that whole thing, I guess is there anything overall that we want to touch on?
So,
what else do we want to touch
Paul,
on?
you were talking about delays and stuff, and I want to pin my response to Lucas's previous question to talk about that. Okay, cool. So we know that it got delayed for about a month to do dubs for international dubs. That's fine. That's all good. That's fine. But when Rob earlier said something, I said I want to put a pin in that. I want to put a pin in everything. So here is Christian's rant about this show and its timing. So Rob said it's the show for the Siege toy line. The Siege toy line has been done for now 7 months, primarily. I mean, I got my last figure in January. That was Astro Drain. This feels late. It feels like it should have come out, during Siege or at the beginning of Siege to try and sell the figures. Now they're trying to sell the exclusive Walmart figures, which is weird. But if we're saying it's late, and probably no one else is saying it's late besides me, I just feel like it's late.
Totally late.
The quality that we got does not indicate that it was delayed for good reasons. It feels like it's lacking polish in the script. It feels like it's lacking a lot of polish in the voice directing. I even felt like the animation at times was subpar. Usually pretty good, but it felt like a web
that
series
run
to me
animation
as opposed to
that run
animation.
Well,
Like, it feels
now
like there's
the
a
question
solid
is on the run animation, was that because they're modeled after the toys and like some of the limitations? Because you say the weird wiggle waggle and some of that kind of stuff. Like, I just wonder on some of this stuff, is it just because they were so focused on the toys and like it had those CAD models that caused some of their animation issues?
No, some of that's just
I don't know.
bad rigging. Like I know a little bit about 3D modeling, like enough for a layman. Like when the waist twists like that, I understand what it's doing. It's because it's called a mesh. There's different points, and they're stretching them out, and the texture gets stretched out between them, and that's why it looks that way. I thought maybe they would have rigidly modeled it or something. They didn't, and which no one does that. It's fine. But that run animation is just bad rigging. That's what that is.
I think there's something to be said though about being so dedicated to making the toys come to life on screen like this.
Like every screw hole or pin or like extra peg, like
I kind of think that's a positive, oddly enough.
Yeah, I actually really like I thought it was fantastic. Like, I was almost kind of like nostalgic for the Siege toys. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I remember when I had these, guys and whatnot. And then some of the repaints that they had and whatnot on the show, I was like, I kind of want these now.
There's a few.
If you want to throw, some of the stuff that was in the show, like the background characters and whatnot. And so, like, I loved that it was the toy line. I thought that was great. I thought it really worked. I don't know, it's weird for me because I don't like it in the comics. Like, so in the new comic, everything is super like accurate to the toy line, and they have every screw hole and they have all that kind of stuff, and I just feel like it's so stupid because I'm like, God, I just can't imagine like that, Alex Milne or whoever's doing the comic, that they're like, God damn it, I had to like, put this 5mm port here and I had to put this here and whatever. But I actually thought it was neat in the show, like that we have that.
I just think it's hard to get used to. I always thought it would be cool, because I think a big part of why Transformers is still great, or is still like has so much nostalgia in our generation and stuff, is because what we saw on screen so much did not match what we got in toy form.
at all.
and part of the reason we're still chasing toys is because of that discrepancy. We're trying to like merge that gap, and that's what Masterpiece is doing. And some people like it, some people don't. But now you don't have the gap. It's almost a 1-for-1 thing. And I just, long term, I'm not really sure if that's going to be better, worse, or not matter. You know, compared
I can say
to,
at least for the toys, it's kind of nice because then that way you don't have to worry about a toy with like 50, 100 steps or whatever that has like a crap, whatever that it has to look like the animation model. Like that's the thing that annoys me about the new Masterpiece is I feel like some of them suffer for. In order
it's a
to
lot of
look like
engineering to pull that off.
But so now we got a Bumblebee that we'll never have a toy of that was prominently focused on in this show.
And
that Bumblebee
did
never transformed. Actually, let's be honest, none of them fucking transformed. Like Megatron transformed once, Optimus transformed once. The only one that transformed was Jetfire.
The Seekers transformed a bunch to go seek.
No, this is what they did. They turned around and they jumped, and then they showed the sky, and you saw the jet flying away. That's what they did.
I heard the transformation sound at least 5 times in the show. Okay.
Sure. It was
Lucas and I
all
talked
off
about
screen.
this on Saturday, where in the very first episode, I'm doing spoiler things now, so
yeah,
I guess
we'll go ahead and switch over to spoilers. So if you're, if you haven't seen the show,
I'm not going to be horribly specific on this one, but Optimus, B, and Wheeljack have to run away from something. They have to get away quickly from things, and they chose to run on their transform into cars.
Right.
Go transform and drive away.
That bothered me so much. I'm like, why aren't they? And now I realize it's because they didn't have a clue what that Bumblebee should look like in car mode, so none of them transformed. They didn't have to do alt modes for them, and they can just...
How about when they were leaving Sound Blaster's place and they jump in Luke Skywalker's hover thing, and it peters away. It peters away like so slow. It's not even like a zoom. It's
if only you guys all transformed into
vehicles
cars
with
or
8
hover
wheels
tanks or whatever. Right.
There's people with guns shooting at you, and you're gonna get on a bike.
Yeah.
Bro, you turn into a sports car. Go.
Yeah.
That
they
really
didn't have the energon to transform. The
beginning of the show when they were running away, I was just like, it took me out so much. I'm like, why would you not transform?
I love that we all noticed that, and it bothered us all. I love that.
Transformers. Nobody transforms.
Right. But again, that's one of those things where what's the budget like? I mean, you run into this with even the movies and stuff where, it just costs so much money to animate transforming. Honestly, it doesn't bother me as much if they did it off camera as much as the fact that they don't transform. That's what annoys me.
I don't know. I mean, the frame by frame watching them transform is something a lot of fans do when it comes to media. The ones that are really anal, I want to see where this part goes and that part goes. And this is the time when they're actually going to work because they're actually the toys on screen. Forget it. Not going to show you.
Don't do it.
That kind of goes back to, I think, Christian's earlier, mini rant, which I wouldn't even call it a rant. I thought it was very balanced. But just why was it, I thought the show was supposed to come out last year. That's what it felt like when it was originally announced. But also, I don't follow it that closely. Because I remember we had a show where I was like, I think that thing is canceled. And then it was a week later, they're like, coming out this summer. I was like, oh, crap, it's still alive. What do you know? So where did the budget go, I wonder? Or what was just the delays? We don't know what the budget was. It could have been
delayed. But here's the question, though, is okay, so
late to a party, you better bring something good. And for this perceived lateness to bring you something, average or below average, it's like...
Okay, but here's the thing though is that for the Combiner Wars trilogy, all that stuff came out late. It was after the toy line or whatever, it was garbage. It was hot garbage. Those shows were so bad.
And so, I think they thought voice talent would fix it. They're like, we got Mark Hamill, right? And
Ron Perlman.
What?
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, but I feel sorry for those dudes.
Super cool, but I think what they learned from that is let's not spend money on the talent. let's focus somewhere else.
Not that they didn't have talent,
like big
people,
name. I'm talking about
names,
they're not
star
movie
powers.
people or whatever.
I'm not saying. Sorry, anyone listening. I'm not saying the voices were not talented.
They didn't drop Agent Smith on there.
To what Rob said, if they didn't spend the budget on that, where did it go?
Yeah, but we don't know what the budget is for this thing, though, too. You know what I mean? Like,
it's more of the time. Like, Rooster Teeth could have been like, guys, something came up in our production schedule, and we can't do this for 4 months. We got to push it out. It would be interesting to know, but that's just because we're nerds. Like, I don't think the toys not lining up is that big of a deal. It's funny. It's the opposite of, like, animated and Prime, where the toys came out 7 months later. But because this show isn't aimed at the market the last two shows, Rid and Cyberverse were aimed at. That was aimed at younger kids. I feel like, this show is aimed at that kind of more teen level that adults won't hate necessarily. It's tolerable, and it's aimed more, I think, at the collectors in some, but kind of bridging that gap where if we wanted the toy, we already bought it. I still think it's bad to not have them out together, but I don't think it's as much of the end of the world as it would be for like Cyberverse.
I mean, I personally, when I first heard about the Netflix series, I was like, oh, good move, Hasbro. I was like, wow, way to go. Like, you almost, I'm not sure if you planned this or if this is a result of it being late, but good decision that they were able to partner up with the retailer that was able to, like, take sloppy seconds. But actually, these aren't the sloppy seconds. These are the real on-screen toys. Like, these are the things you actually want. Like, that Megatron looks amazing. It looks exactly like the one in the show. That's cool. The first one didn't. It was just, it's like its own weird version. Well, and going back to where the budget went, I actually have it on in my background. There's some things that are good about this show, but I think they're like the lesser appreciated. The lighting is quite good, and that takes a pro, like a really good person that knows what they're doing, to get like cool, moody lighting, the atmosphere, like the backgrounds, the stuff you take for granted. I gotta say, it's all pretty good. The lighting effects, like the colors that are like, I'm looking at Ultra Magnus and Megatron talking at this table, and it's like super moody lighting. It looks really good, and you just kind of take that for granted. You don't really think about it, but it takes time,
which is a sign that it's done well.
Yeah, that part is done very well. Some of the animation, that's a different group of people. Some of the cinematography, different group of people. But
yeah, if the animation was great, we wouldn't notice it being bad. We would take it for granted, which is unfortunate. Like, I don't think the animation is terrible. I think it's good, but it's just there's some times when it's like, oh, that's kind of cringeworthy.
In that regard, I think one scene I'll never forget is when they're at Tarn-Hauser Gate. That's how it's spelled in the subtitles, by the way. And it's raining, and everyone's in there, like Magnus, walking sullenly through the rain. Yeah, I think that's that's beautifully done. Like that's the part that will stick with me about this show.
Yeah.
Can I interject another toy thing?
Oh,
jeez. So for a,
it's muted for the show. So I muted it for the show, just not for you guys. Sorry.
For a series that is so toy focused on the Siege toy line, it's missing 2 size classes, which really bothers me. There's no Micromasters. There's no Battle Masters.
Wrong. There are definitely Micromasters in the show,
there?
man. Yeah, do you guys listen to TF Talk News? I mean,
there's
Mr.
tapes.
Starscream guy broke it down.
There was tapes on there, Christian.
Oh, the tape. Okay, fine. There's
3.
2 tapes. Oh, there's several. 3 tapes.
Laserbeak, Ravage, Buzzsaw.
And some generic Condor ones. Fine. But where's like Stakeout and Red Hot and Countdown and where are those guys? And Megatron, actually the Voyagers, they came with Battle Masters. What's his name? Heartburn and Heatseeker that came with Hot Link, and Lionizer and Pinpointer that came with Megatron. Like, where are those guys? I mean, Lionizer and Pinpointer were called captive, those names, and they're nowhere to be found.
I feel like that's purely a budget thing from having a 3D animated show, because they're not going to make every character they add is a new model that they got to do, and that's a straight line. But it's not
particularly with Heatseeker and Heartburn. When they announced those at Toy Fair, they're like, "Oh, these are 2 brand new characters. They're called the Whatever Twins, and they're going to be an integral part of the show." And I was like, "Okay, where are those guys going to show up?"
Did they say that'd be part of the show?
They really did.
Hi, Anna.
Unless I'm just crazy, but I remember that very specifically.
I don't remember them saying they were going to be in the show, but I remember they made a big point of them being new characters.
Maybe they'll be in Earthrise. I don't know.
I thought it was weird
we still got 2 more parts.
I was disappointed.
No little people, which is weird.
Like, on the one hand,
a ton of generic cogs, a ton of generic everything else.
But that probably goes back to your thing about 3D modeling all these characters. Once they have the 3D model, they're like, all right, let's do straight repaints of all this stuff. So it's like, and you get a cog, and you get a cog.
But they could have made them little cogs, and they would have been micro cogs. That would have been perfect.
There you go.
I mean, Micromaster, micro cogs.
I will say I did love the part where they, checked him for guns or whatever in the show.
Yeah, he is a gun.
We're past spoilers.
He's made of guns.
I know, isn't it? Right. That
was horrible. Ken, I want to say another thing about that scene too, that sequence. They're like, they have to go to Sound Blaster and get all this energon to make this giant ship move, and they grab like 2 tiny pieces.
Right,
like,
I know.
This is all you needed this whole time.
Right, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, literally,
that's
the amount.
Condensed.
And you need 2 tiny pieces.
The amount of energon. The amount of energon they're bringing.
A gajillion energons in there. You don't understand.
Like, Sound Blaster had all the energon on the planet or something.
He could have saved the planet.
Stashed in a corner. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, and literally the amount of energon they brought in, I think, was about what they brought out. Like, those 2.
It's not condensed. They brought in some pipes. That is condensed energon, guys. Do you even listen to the show?
Yeah, they had to go get the nugs.
They gotta get the nugs. Get those nugs.
But I was just trying to figure out, like, if you're
operation,
if you're screwing over
guns.
What?
Paul's done.
You do that for 2 tiny pieces.
Like somehow you're screwing over the biggest energon trader or whatever, and doing this whole mission. You can't bring a transformer to fill him up with energon or just whatever, like some kind of bucket. I don't know, like whatever. That was somewhat ridiculous.
Cog just grabs him in his hands, like, all right, we got enough. Let's go. What?
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of stuff about the show where I was just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I had to call Christian after I got done. And I was like, all right, can we go through, like, some of these plot points here?
I want to bitch about some plot points.
Like, okay, can we bitch about plot point? Let's bitch.
I want to bitch about one of them. So, I think it's episode 2 where he's like, oh, Megatron's like, we found the Allspark, and now we're going to get it. And we're going to, blah, blah, blah. And, the Autobots are like, no, we got to stop them. And we have to find the Allspark instead. And then the Khans set up a trap for the Autobots and then stop looking for the Allspark. They just quit. That's no longer a concern. Like, the Autobots, that's still all they're doing is trying to get to the Allspark. The Khans just give up. Like, we've already done that an episode ago. We're not going to
I'm sitting there trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, so...
Lucas and I talked about this.
Yeah.
Because of the bad guys. They're bloodthirsty.
Okay, so it does seem like a plot hole, and they don't do a very good job of explaining it, so I'm going to try to do a good job of explaining it.
Oh, look at that. Christian wrote the series.
So they're sending these fake coordinates to the Autobots where the Allspark is. They have to split up the teams and go get them. And you see that all the lieutenants, including our favorite helicopter boy, Spinster...
Did they not say Spinster?
Are waiting. They did not.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I noticed that big time. I had to watch it a couple times to make sure it was wrong. And yeah, it was. Don't worry, I'll talk about that later. So the lieutenants are all waiting in the places to ambush the Autobots because Megatron thinks that is okay. Ambush attacks are part of normal warfare. He doesn't want to actually get the Allspark to reformat the Autobots because that's war crimes. And up until he gets betrayed by Magnus, he doesn't want to do war crimes on the Autobots. Because remember, he says in the first episode, he's focused on winning sparks and mines. He doesn't want to forcefully override the Autobots and turn them into cons. That's why, he's got the Decepticons, they're the state. He said the Autobots are enemies of the state, and they've got surrender centers all over the place.
Are you telling me that they put in actual character development for Megatron and then botched it so bad that I completely
Megatron's
missed it?
Shockwave, I don't want to do your war crime nonsense, up until he gets betrayed by his brother, Magnus.
Right.
And he's like, I feel so betrayed by this guy who was so noble, and we fought together at Tarnhauser Gate, and all right, Shockwave, I'm done with these guys. They're clearly not honorable. It's war crimes time. And then they do.
Am I dumb for missing that?
No, it was really subtle. Like they needed to stress that.
Because that would have made it awesome.
No, because that's what I had to talk about this.
That's what
I'm
it is. Yeah, Luke's gonna talk about that for like 2 hours on Saturday. Because
you talked about it longer than the show is.
This is why I couldn't rewatch the show. Is because Christian and I sat there talking about the show for, a couple hours. But
Megatron doesn't want
I
to do
don't
war
understand.
crimes, and
So
then he gets betrayed, and then he wants to
does
do war
Megatron
crimes.
actually know where the Allspark's at? Like, because the Seekers mapped out the Rust Sea or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess they know that it's down there.
Didn't they at one point say that the Allspark would appear somewhere else if they waited? I remember Alita saying something along the lines of, we should wait till it appears somewhere else, which seemed really weird to me and very video gamey. No one else caught that line, so no one could confirm it. My friend I was watching it totally heard it too. We discussed how it was a video game plot, but I think if you just wait for it to spawn somewhere else, it spawns somewhere without zombies.
I feel like there's probably a lot of like one line, like for his, it's not like this had an intricate plot, but it seemed like there was probably a lot of one-liners that if you missed it, you're like, the show goes totally over your head.
Absolutely.
So maybe y'all can explain this plot hole then. So I thought Sound Blaster was awesome. Like, just to get that out of the way,
it's great.
I thought it was cool. It's a mercenary faction, which was I think subtle to where like the nerds can pick up on it, but it doesn't overly complicate things for new viewers. But it was just cool. He had a cool attitude and character. I don't know. I really dug it for whatever reason. It struck a chord. I was like, that was fun. I wish he was in it more. But when they first meet him, Bumblebee's like, don't bring up that he looks like Soundwave. He's sensitive to it. There's like 800 fucking clones in this thing, all over the place. Why is him being a clone of Soundwave? And like, he's a Shockwave experiment, which that sounds cool. Yeah. What makes him so damn special from all these other background characters that all look exactly the same? And I feel like that was just those aren't clones. They're supposed to be different, and we just it's not like cell shading where we can just draw or actual cell animation.
Cog should have jumped in and been like, "Yo, dog, clones." Like,
you want to talk about clones?
Like, I can say clone whenever I want.
See, I pulled out a theory about that earlier. That character.
C word. Oh man. So, is there an explanation for that?
I made one up earlier. That's all I got. I decided just to have one earlier. See, okay, so characters like Soundwave, they are unique. They're like unique and special Cybertronians. Other ones like Sideswipe and 8,000 Refractors and even Ironhide.
What are you trying to say about Ironhide and Sideswipe?
I'm saying that maybe they are not as unique. Maybe the ones that were with Optimus were just the ones that were with Optimus.
Wait, so are you trying to say that Starscream is not unique? Is this what you're trying to get at?
Which gives him the complex. It makes him crazy mean and sabotagey and stuff. And he's a little psychotic because of it, because there's so many of him. But then you have the guys like Soundwave who are truly unique that Shockwave would try to clone. And the guys like Optimus and Megatron who are truly unique, so therefore they lead. This is just BS on top of a lazy technique of using the same character models over and over. However, if you convince yourself of it, it makes the whole culture, which is great.
Fine explanation.
I like it.
Yeah. Sure.
That works better than what the show gave us, so I'm down with it.
So this is the other thing I'm trying to figure out too, is okay, how is it like, so Megatron's like, cannon or whatever, he's able to shoot straight through Ultra Magnus, right? And like make this huge hole in him, right? But then when he which is fine, like that's awesome that his gun is that powerful. But I'm trying to figure out when he shoots Jetfire, right? Like it's a scratch or something on him or what? Like what's up with that?
It's just Mega Man. He just held A button down longer when he shot Magnus.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it was like
I'm on
I've always thought that like not realistically, but whenever something is using energon or energy blasts in whatever media you're watching, like especially if it's part of them, like if I punch someone, I don't always punch them how much force are you putting behind it? And to me that kind of always worked for like, did he want to kill him or did he want to injure him? Or
But at that point in the
it's energy
show,
expenditure as well.
right? But at that point in the show, he was trying to kill Jetfire, though, right? Like, because Jetfire is already like an enemy, whatever. At that point, it was towards the end of the show when he did it.
It was a love tap.
Well, Jetfire is commander class, and Ultra Magnus is only leader class, so it takes a lot more dollars to kill Jetfire.
There you go. That might be it right there.
Jetfire has level 5.
It's an $80 toy versus a $50 toy.
That's right.
All right. I want to talk about Magnus and his toy and him in general in this show. So the spoiler pack. I opened it during the show because I held it this whole time because like, all right,
you did.
You did not.
Why this has spoilers, so I'm going to open it while I watch the show.
Forever, Paul.
Yeah.
Did you not use the internet in the past year, too?
No, I've seen it.
This is why Christian was so upset about the show.
There's a pink rung for no reason.
He wanted to experience it the way it was made.
I wanted to figure out what the Play-Doh was about. I was like, okay, they're going to have to hunt for Energon as some sort of like sludge and thing.
So bad.
The Play-Doh's for nothing. The Magnus is kind of gray because that's what color the Siege figures are. And
spoiler, you held onto a box for 8 months for no damn reason. There you go.
I think Sabertron.
I paid full price and held on to it, and
the closest thing I can think of.
Look, I like the Magnus. I like the Energon cubes. I like the Rung. They're very good. There's just no spoilers in that box.
Well, Rung has those pink lightning bolt things.
Ooh.
And they did whatever they did to Magnus, and it was pink lightning. And I was like, okay,
yeah, you got pink webbies all over him.
All right, so again, another Magnus toy point. So this is another toy show problem. Magnus 1 never transforms, and no one does. Magnus also doesn't get out of his armor. I figured when they killed him, that he would like sneak out of his armor and be like, all right, now I'm going to have my revenge or whatever. Nope, he's just dead.
So,
and then
one
more thing about Magnus. I'm sorry, Lucas. I've got one more thing, and then I'll be done. So they give Magnus this thing from Alpha Trion called the Alpha Trion Protocols, and they build it up to be this thing that's like the equivalent of the Matrix. So you can't have both of them in one character because they're both super powerful. Okay, got it. Prime and Magnus, and that was weird to have like a triumvirate kind of thing for them. So, but I came around to it. I was like, okay, got to have the hearts and the minds. Okay, that's different. And
they're a dyad in the Force.
And then they just get rid of it forever.
You just deleted it.
What was even the point? I mean, it makes Bumblebee come to the Autobots or whatever, but like, if it's going to be such a big, huge MacGuffin, like on the level with the Matrix, it's just like, it's just poof. Oh, that really annoyed me.
Well, but then they found the Allspark, so then they had a new MacGuffin, so they didn't need the old MacGuffin.
But maybe what it shows
only 6 episodes.
So both leaders were willing to destroy something that could have saved their race. So if the Codex could have saved them, Megatron was willing to destroy it. If the Allspark could have saved them, Prime was willing to throw that in a hole. So both of them made the stupid mistake of destroying the thing that could have saved the whole race so the other guy couldn't have it, making them equally stupid. There you go. War is dumb.
So one thing about Magnus is that Sabertron, their theory is that the spoiler is because he was a bunch of him was gray, is that it was showing the life draining out of his body.
This is the process of dying.
I saw that today. That was the dumbest thing I've read lately.
But
who wrote that?
Going to sleep mode.
I don't know, man.
Was it Sabertron himself? Because he told me he made a big diatribe, and I was like, not reading that.
No, I don't know, man. It was on my feed. I didn't really pay attention that closely.
I saw it too. I was like, no, this is...
But you know what? No. If they would have put a giant ass hole in that Magnus, that would have been dope.
Yeah, that would have been a spoiler.
That would have been a spoiler.
They just drove a punch hole through it. Here's your toy. It's missing like 30% of it.
So
spoiler.
As much of a letdown as the spoiler pack is, so what the hell is in the next one?
I'm shocked that it hasn't leaked yet.
Pointless.
Like, how is this not leaked yet with all of this, like, all the leaks that we've had, all this crap that is coming from China and whatever, and from the factories that are dropping off, like, wherever, and we don't know what this thing is.
It's just because we haven't read the box. We can't see both all the parts of the box because of the spoiler stuff is written on the sides.
It's got Giza and some other thing.
Yeah, but that
doesn't
matter. Like that's not real.
The other box has rum written on it.
It does.
But that wouldn't have clued you into, it's Ultra Magnus.
No, but it would have clued us into, rum is in there. But, Giza is a Nemesis Prime familiar, I guess.
It's called a red herring. Anna, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that maybe it's because literally the first spoiler pack was so disappointing that Walmart literally clearanced it before they put it out. That maybe they're thinking that maybe if they don't let the spoiler out this time, they can sell it for full price instead of clearancing it before it hits the shelf.
It could be out for a whole week.
Maybe, right? It could be out for at least 20 minutes before they have to clearance it.
I like to imagine somebody's putting it out on the shelf and they're sitting there watching their watch, waiting to mark it down. Just, timing it.
As it's value, just throw it down physically.
Yeah. If it's people in the show, Shockwave would be the most likely. Astro Train showed up for 0.5 seconds and got blown up.
Astro Train was so...
Did he get blown up?
He got shot by the Ark, I'm assuming.
I think he was as big as the Ark. I think he'll be fine.
He got
I think he was the one who was chasing the Ark in the end.
So, I don't know. I almost feel like it's going to be Astro Train just because, we haven't seen a repaint of Astro Train yet. And so, if you go look at every other thing, now that's not 100%, but, again, I almost kind of feel like you have to look at, what have we not gotten a repaint of yet? And
Galaxy Optimus.
Yeah.
But that it's in itself is kind of half repaint, remold, and only came out through selects, so.
Galaxy Optimus?
Yeah.
No.
That's incorrect.
Galaxy Optimus was a retail.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
Don't
shows
forget,
how much I go to the store.
Galaxy Optimus wasn't in the goddamn show, though. So that ain't happening.
Yeah. Well, neither was Scrapface, and neither were the Battle Masters, and neither were the Micromasters. So.
Especially Scrapface. That seems like so easy to throw in the background.
Okay, so Decepticon Mirage. Let's talk about
my God. That was a
disappointment.
There for 1.5 seconds, and then they were like, oh, he can't hold his disguise for very long. One, that's Hound's power, not Mirage's power. And two, later on, Mirage is like, all right, I'm going to cloak this entire giant-ass building for a day.
You damn fool.
Problem, bro.
The way I put it earlier was it was literally made to symbolize a special move that he was actually bad at. It was the one thing he was bad at doing. Let's make a toy of it.
I really was expecting there to be a plot where he is undercover. I was honestly, maybe the show was going to start off with him being a Decepticon, kind of like Jetfire was, except the whole time he's working for Prime and smuggling info out or something cool. Literally anything cool.
In the pack, back last year, he came in the pack with Impactor, and Impactor was a Decepticon in that pack. And we're trying to figure out why. So I was thinking that Mirage was undercover trying to turn Impactor, and Impactor kind of did turn, but Mirage being a Decepticon was nothing.
Yeah, it was really ratchet.
So my question though, with Impactor, right, is that Nick was so upset, and I almost want him on the show for a second just to see his thoughts on Impactor. He was so upset that he was a Decepticon, right? That what does he feel about now that he had this whole arc on the show? And
Nick, it's still not the right head. It's not the right Impactor.
It's true.
Because Decepticon Impactor has the IDW head.
Oh, was it?
It's still wrong.
Yeah, they use that head.
The new one, the Netflix one, will be.
The Netflix one has the ugly head, but that head is objectively worse.
And what I told, sure, but he's the one that's on the show. And I remember telling Nick when he was all pissed, I was like, "Hey, Nick, when that show comes out, you're gonna change your mind. Just obvious." Oh, and
I didn't change my mind.
I didn't change my mind either.
It's still a hideous head.
Back to Mirage just for a second here, it kind of brings up some stuff of what does it take to determine your allegiance in the show? And I think it's stuff we have to kind of gloss over. But why is he doing this huge allegiance thing? Because he just walks up basically like Steve Buscemi in that movie, hello, fellow kids. I'm one of you. Yeah, and did nobody know who he is? Recognize who the hell are you? So at that point, if the army's so big, literally anybody can just put a sticker on themselves, order it from Toy Hacks, and just walk up to Megatron and shoot him in the face. This is, we have to, we gloss over these things as fans, but it's just so funny. It makes no sense.
I agree about that too, Rob. I decided that
Fellow kids.
I decided that the symbols are just for us to see visually. But basically what the factions are is there's something equivalent to pheromones. Humans can't actually sense your faction allegiance because we don't have the receptors for it. So they just use the symbols on TV for us to see, but those don't actually appear on their bodies. It's just something you sense about them.
So Mirage, which is a visual thing, really is him farting up the place.
He just put that as pheromones.
Okay, so Lucas and I talked about this one about Mirage too. After that fiasco where the Decepticon thing fails, he then generates like several copies of himself that appear to exist in physical form and do actual damage.
Why doesn't he just defeat the Decepticon army?
Right, exactly. Right.
So are those real dudes? Are they illusions? Are they somewhere in between? That doesn't make any sense. Also, again, I've said it a couple times, that's Hound's power, not Mirage's power.
Not anymore. Not in this continuity, son.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
You gotta
all
combine
those
some
matter
powers.
avatars.
I have to chalk it up at this point to like that type of stuff is like, oh, it uses energy to do it. They're all energy starved, so it's not like they can just use their special power 24/7. That's the best I got, to kind of mentally cope with it.
Sure.
Was Mirage the only basic Autobot to really do anything cool? I don't think Sideswipe ever did anything cool. Wheeljack never did anything cool.
Cog hopped on RC and totally surprised the cons that the guy made of guns turned into a gun.
Cog did.
I did think that was cool.
Completely.
Moonracer was able to die like a chump.
That's
was
true.
Die like a chump.
She pulls apart very easy. She's like a crash test dummy.
It honestly felt almost as bad as a Michael Bay movie death.
It did.
Because she dies, and then Prime, gets the Allspark, and the zombies leave, and they're like, "Oh, we're saved." It's like, she just died. I guess the rest of you are
She held her body for a minute. Her
So
eyes turned off.
like, grab her corpse or something, bring it back.
At least it wasn't Cliff Jumper.
It was just like, she's dead, and they immediately forgot she joined. They're like, oh, we made it. 100% success rate, guys. Mission accomplished. Hang the banner.
Thank God no one died.
Yeah.
Prime
didn't even throw on her corpse
it's probably not that
and power
important.
up.
Hey, did anyone see on Instagram like all the people making toy photos of Jetfire like holding Prowl? It's like, I will remember you. And there's all these pictures of them like, I don't know. It looks like they're hugging. It's really
all right,
funny.
I gotta check this out on Instagram.
Sounds cute.
It's like the thing everyone started doing with their toys after that came out. I don't know.
Oh,
it's
so
funny.
Why was Prowl so short?
He's a
that's
little
what
guy.
He's a deluxe dog.
Smaller. Yeah.
He was shorter than Alita.
Sometimes.
You're right, sometimes. Yeah,
Besides,
I don't know.
Hound
We don't
was
have
the
that.
real one that shapeshifted. He was sometimes really, really big, and then sometimes he was just like all the other deluxe guys. It's very strange.
So obviously the show like had a lot from G1, right? Like every one of us watching this, the second that showed up was started with Wheeljack and Bumblebee getting Energon. We're like, holy crap, it's the first episode. That's a fun nod, right?
Yeah.
But like
How about
then
that?
later on, like, Bumblebee sees the repair bay and he's like, this is everybody. And like not too long after that, it might have been the next episode, Prime's like, Elita 1, gather everyone up, and it's like 6 Autobots. And I was just like, oh man, they are totally boned. But then it's like Prowl pops up, it's like, oh, he's here now. and then like Ironhide shows up and he's like, my voice sucks now, and I'm here. It's like, okay, there's Ironhide. And so it's like, how big is the Autobot crew? Like,
Well, that's what I was trying to
there's
figure out.
outposts everywhere too.
Well,
Like,
this
where
is
the
what I
Jumper
was
is
trying
and
to
stuff.
figure out, like, when they left, like, at the very end, because I was asking Christian that. I'm like, wait a minute, like, so Optimus is going off with, like, half a dozen Autobots and leaving all the rest of those guys to die with the Decepticons, or switch over allegiances, whichever one's, like, whichever one they want to do, but it's like, all right, like, Alita, here you go,
It's Prime literally says, gather everyone. They pan the room, and there's 6 or 7 people.
Right.
Like, I can only assume it's got to be
poignant moment.
outposts. it's got to be Outposts. Like I think it's the best thing is like, and they're coming in and off.
But you're right. I mean, that was meant to demonstrate the bleakness of the situation.
Yeah.
Everybody in that huge room, right here. Yeah. I mean, that's clearly what that's for. And then you're right. It kind of cheapens it when other people just start showing up.
Because they did show that cliff jumper on video, and he was in a different location. So that shows that there were other locations for them.
I mean, like, I don't know.
Right, but then they left all those guys, like,
they should have been there
on Cybertron. So they better not be Autobots.
We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So somehow they, like, went in the back door or whatever while they're fighting Megatron and whatnot. They're like, hey, guys, like, meet on up.
Well, it illustrated the very stark difference of Megatron and his coliseum of dudes.
Yeah.
And Optimus had, like, a ragtag crew. But you knew that wasn't everyone because they had already shown, like dozens of dudes without legs and shit in the hallway. So, like, you knew there were
I thought those were dead. I didn't think those were
they were kind of like...
Sometimes they kind of moved.
Yeah.
But they referred to them as dead in the same scene that they moved, which was kind of disturbing. Because it was like they were still hanging on for life. It was like, look at all the dead guys. A little odd.
I think it could have been solved with a throwaway line of Elita 1 gather everyone, and Elita 1 saying, this is everybody that's here right now. These are the only people available.
Everyone else is on patrol.
Yeah. Prowl's in the crapper. Don't bother him.
Prowl's prowling for chicks.
But I mean, I will say at least like that is a little bit of a different story than what we've gotten in the past. So I mean, it's the same story, but it's kind of a different perspective. And so I do like that. Like it'll be kind of interesting. Well, just the fact that like the Autobots are like
in charge.
Yeah.
I remember earlier when I was talking about Megatron says the Autobots are the enemies of the state. That means the state is the Decepticons.
I feel like Animated did that a bit too, because in Animated,
G1 did that.
They're outcasts, and like the Decepticons when they show up, like it feels like the Autobots were underdogs. Sorry, is I guess what I'm getting at. That part's
our
been done.
Autobots were, but like main Autobot command. Anyway,
that's true because like Elite Command was back out there, and
the Decepticons were terrorists at that point. They were just well funded.
You're right.
Yeah, hit and run terrorists. They had lost the war and were on the run.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the only thing that's annoying is it's essentially the same. The only thing that's annoying is it's essentially the same story as like The Last Jedi, but other than that,
that's true.
Not even going to touch that one.
Well,
I did like that they had to get the magic D20. That was helpful.
That is, they had to roll their face. 1 in 20 chance of saving the race.
God, Rob, I'm really glad you brought that up about the group of people, because I remember watching that being like, oh wow, like I had that exact same feeling. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because now that I've seen the show, I'll forget that I ever thought that.
Yeah,
because now I know.
That's why I took notes.
Good job. All right, sorry, Christian. I just wanted to give him some props.
Oh, I was moving on to Omega, because I like that Omega shows up, but Omega also doesn't do anything that his toy does. He crushes things. He kind of appears. He says things, and
all the models are. What's he gonna do? I'll show them. I'll transform into a rocket base.
Well, like give rid of the
he could leave.
Omega away.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was cool, and honestly, like, I'm kind of curious. Like, we've seen this Omega Supreme, like, is in high demand now. Like, it's hard to find one, and people have been going off because I guess Big Bad Toy Store put them up for like over the prior retail. I think it's a couple $100, and TF Source as well. But so, and we've seen a few other toys as well where I think Skywarp is worth quite a bit and whatnot. So I'm kind of curious, like will they re-release the Omega, or is it just going to keep skyrocketing in value? And then the same thing with Jetfire. Like,
they haven't been big on revisiting Titans at all.
No, they haven't.
Wow.
But this is a new strategy. They're literally reusing like literal toys to promote a cartoon. This is something that's kind of new, so I could see something weird happening. Like, I could see once the cartoon really circulates around Christmas time, maybe they throw out some more Omegas.
I figured it out. The spoiler box is half of Omega. It's like they popped it apart at the legs and shoved it in there.
The third party ones. They keep it 2 parts.
Yeah. Anna, you're right. Like, there isn't really a precedent for this. They can do whatever they want, but I would find it, if they haven't made that decision already, it's not happening, because like it's like you said, it's if they just like the show came out and they're like, oh, we got real good feedback. If people want Jetfire and Omega, they're like, okay, cool, we'll have that in 2021. That sounds like a great idea. You know,
Right.
that's when it would happen.
No, you're right. That's
Or maybe 2022 at this. I don't really know what the cycle's like.
Yeah, production cycles being what they are.
Yeah.
It seems
that's
hard
true.
to slot in something as big as a Titan or a Commander for an extra surprise run.
I could see them doing Jetfire though, because he was so prominent.
So
He's a big
prominent.
Is it
part.
every
right.
episode?
I think they are actually
Laser
doing a
sword,
rerun.
dude.
I want the laser sword. Why did
Want that
they
sword?
use that?
So
did
so
they do
I complained
got
with that
so
to
many-
Christian too. He comes with like 8 guns, right? His toy does. And yet somehow he has a laser sword in the show. Like that's his main primary weapon, and he doesn't come with that like the toy does not.
I feel like somebody was sitting down to plot this and they're like, oh, this is going to piss the nerds off. And just like, you know, like they were just so happy about it. Yeah.
From a narrative perspective, I think it'd been really great if like Decepticon version Jetfire had been the one wearing the armor, and then he gets rid of the armor, his warlike ways to join up with the Autobots.
That'd be
It
cute.
shows that change.
I think that comes back to like the same reason Omega doesn't transform or whatever, is just everything costs money when you have to model it. And they're just not going to do any more models than what is needed to get that, especially for the first show. If this ends up, you know, the partnership works out great. Like it was like I saw it, I don't think, up to number 6 on Netflix. Like not like I was monitoring. I just, you know, it's like, oh, trending number 6 today on Netflix. You know, and it's like, that's pretty good for a show made to sell toys that you can't buy anymore. But, you know, if it does well, I don't know. Maybe they can get more in sync. I don't remember where I was going with that.
I just want to point out our comments here that Zeldron is totally right. Jetfire was just Dinobot in this version. And that was a very important thing. And they were just like, we'll go ahead and make Jetfire Dinobot this time.
Is that why his voice sounds like a snake?
That's why he sounds like Dinobot. He sounds like Dinobot. He acts like Dinobot. He has Dinobot's character arc. He'll sacrifice himself in part 2. It'll be
It'll be
sad.
really weird when we get to Kingdom and Dinobot shows up.
It'll be tears.
Maybe he'll get reformatted. That's when he's going to come back to
Into
life.
Dinobot.
You're right. I thought
The
that
dinosaur
as you
just
said.
burst out of his dead chest. Roar.
So here,
I
wait.
hate and
Speaking
love
of
that.
Kingdom, Netflix themselves has announced season 3 of Transformers: War for Cybertron is coming, and it's Kingdom.
Mhm.
But season 2
Mhm.
has had zero
Mhm.
announcements.
Mhm.
What is up with that?
It's going to jump ahead.
Did they
Okay,
just
so-
like really mess up and the leak
No.
happened? They're like, run!
I think what it is that Earthrise, or presumptively Earthrise, was supposed to be announced at the SDCC presentation. And from my feeling calculations, watching the Fan First Friday stuff, we've only gotten the tail end of that presentation, which is all the exclusive figures. So we don't have the first part where they would have been like, here's the media that's coming, here's the new figures that are coming. Earthrise is season 2, which they probably didn't do because Siege got delayed by a month, which then ran into Comic-Con. So I feel like it's supposed to have been
I
sequential.
think you're
and just
overcomplicating it.
wasn't.
They announced season 3 before season 2. Did they press the wrong button? Like, what are they
the
thinking
promo
over there?
materials were ready and they were leading up to the release.
It,
Oh,
it-
no,
it
you're
makes
right. I
sense.
see
It
what you're
makes
saying
no
now.
sense.
Nope, you're
The
right.
toy
It
line
makes
hasn't
sense.
even been announced. It all leaked. You know, were they trying to plug a leak by like opening the dam, or it was Netflix too?
Right.
So I bet Hasbro's like, what? You know, like we can't stop what Netflix does, but like, I'm just really shocked by that whole chain of events.
I hope it's not so serious that it sours a relationship, because Netflix as a platform is way better than Machinima or The Hub.
God.
You know, so hopefully it's not that big a deal back at Hasbro HQ.
I mean, it doesn't really hurt necessarily, but it was just
Yeah.
so weird.
It's a little awkward. I would have never even noticed it had you not pointed it out, though. I have a feeling the average person doesn't care.
There's been no mention anyway. Even though we all know it's Earthrise is going to be season 2, there has been zero official announcement that a show is coming, and it will be called Earthrise, and it will be the next 6 episodes. But we do know that the third one will be called Kingdom, and it will have 6 episodes, and it will air on Netflix.
But the Kingdom thing is almost more like interesting, like if they're like, oh, it's Earthrise, like, okay, great.
But again, we have to leapfrog. They have to promote this next season, right. But the show, like, they can't. They're
obviously
like
they
don't to catch up. Yeah. So the same problem that you're annoyed with, Christian, we're already in it again for season 2.
So
like, I'm right, and I feel like to not have my problem, Earthrise needs to launch, Christmas time.
See, and I don't know, have we gotten dates on that? Because like a lot of these Netflix shows, a season is not a year. It could be whenever
like what Paul
it is.
said,
like,
we've heard nothing about season 2. Zero things whatsoever.
But like, I almost feel like, okay, so originally the show was supposed to be out in June to match the Walmart toys that were coming out, right? But then it got delayed due to COVID. Is more than likely. Like, the question is
a June release schedule would make sense if they're trying to aim it correctly.
To catch up.
Will they? I don't know.
Because when are the Netflix toys supposed to come out with the new wave? Is that supposed to be October?
Month.
Yeah.
September, October.
I think it's October.
Yeah. So the pre-orders we made ship in October. Maybe.
Well, I mean, the pre-orders, they're not going to ship. The question is when are those shipper containers going to show up at Walmart?
When are your pre-orders going to get canceled, meaning that they're in stores? That's the question.
September, October. So, is it, it's supposed to be out in June. It came out in July, so the toy showed up in April. So, I mean, maybe. But as far as we know, it's still Siege Wave 2. It's not Netflix Earthrise.
It's Earthrise
1. So.
Well, that remains to be seen, actually, because they have told us that some of those are Earthrise toys. And I have seen... The closest thing I've seen is a white, white, black, and red piece of that artwork of the Ark flying and the Quintesson's face, like the montage graphic, and it totally looks like it's from the box art that would be for Earthrise. So
maybe the spoiler pack is for Earthrise.
I think Wave 2 probably is supposed to be the Earthrise set of those War for Cybertron toys, because the leaks for the leaks that are out there include Cheetor. So,
Wave 3.
Duh.
And Deep Cover. I'm excited about that, too. I'm the only one excited.
Well,
I'm excited for Deep Cover. I'll take that.
Guys, I totally forgot what show I was on. Never mind.
So...
Everyone's excited for Deep Cover.
Except for me.
Wait, it's a crazy repaint, Anna. Why would you not want it?
Because it's another Sideswipe, right? I don't even know who it is.
He might have been in the show because there were like some blue Sideswipes.
Yeah, there was.
I was noticing that.
I was like,
purple ones, green ones.
That's got to be Jeep.
I would like a 3-pack of those cogs, though. I truly would. Like a red one and a green one and a yellow one. I really would like those.
I only wouldn't be bothered by that because they're such a fun play pattern. Like, taking them apart and putting them together. But I want it to be a whole bunch of them together, but they just come in a sack, all taken apart. So, like,
they have to come with a generic impactor trooper so that they can get scanned for Sound Blaster's lair and totally pass.
So I was going to bring in Chris. Chris Vernon brought up that he thinks that the Kingdom thing leaked because Beast Wars fans will get invested now because they know that that's the last part of the trilogy, and so they'll kind of hop on rather than waiting towards the end.
And what benefit does that give anyone?
Actually, that may be something. I've seen a lot of the comicbook.coms of the world post stuff like Netflix is doing a Beast Wars reboot, and that appeals to the people who are my age who grew up with it.
Yeah.
So it may be getting not the Beast Wars fans, but the Beast Wars nostalgia people like me.
I mean, I will say it does generate more news, again, to have it be Kingdom than to have it, like, if it was just Earthrise, it's like, okay, whatever. But the fact that it, like, leaked, it's almost like, oh, hey, and there's a Netflix show coming, like the first part or whatever it's showing up now, so it gets them, like you said, in comicbook.com and like different outlets like that. So who knows?
I will politely disagree with that. As a marketer, I would be fucking furious right now if I was involved in this at all. Because none of it makes sense. It's completely out of sync. I mean, if you want the Beast Wars people involved, you want to get them involved when the show comes out. They can watch the other 12 episodes anytime because they're all on Netflix, digestible at any time.
Or else they get on a podcast, 2 months before it comes out and say, "Man, is this thing canceled? Is this still happening?" Because that's what happened. That's what happens when you have to wait so long between announcements. And
That's true. I remember when y'all were upset. It was fun.
So I have going back to the show for just a second. I know, weird, right?
What?
This is a real nerdy science thing here. Why does Cybertron have an atmosphere? There is no reason for it, and I didn't even realize that it had an atmosphere until the very end of the show when there's sunrise.
Why do they breathe? If you watch the subtitles, Ultra Magnus has a lot of heavy breathing while he's being tortured. Lots of it.
Like they don't.
So
need
the atmosphere's there so they can breathe.
I don't know exactly which element makes the sky yellow when the sun's rising. To spread out and give that purple or whatever. I understand the sky's blue because it's the shortest wavelength as it passes through our atmosphere. If we didn't have atmosphere, the sky would just be black. And so that means Cybertron has an atmosphere. There's no reason for it.
Sure there is. Gravity. If it's a big enough planet, it acquires, it pulls in molecules.
Okay.
But the planet's so small, you can see buildings sticking out from it from anywhere. So there you go. I don't know.
It looks like the size of Texas.
They also have to have an atmosphere for sound wave to be a thing because you can't convey sound without atmosphere.
There you go.
I guess why does Megatron have limps? I guess as well.
So Paul, going back again about the marketing with the Kingdom thing, they did bring up there was that whole thing where they did the reveals for the Netflix show and it converted into a letter that spelled out Kingdom. So there was some type of marketing effort that happened. We don't know why it happened that way, but it's we don't know why then. But again,
still makes no sense. They missed the middle. It's
I think the only thing again too is that it's yes, there will be a trilogy. It is planned out. We have this funded in the future. Don't you worry. It's
that could be part of it.
I don't know if maybe that's part of it. Who knows? I don't know.
So was anyone questioning Kingdom? There would be a trilogy after they said there would be a trilogy?
Because they on Netflix, what wasn't it the images or whatever, the preview images spelt out Kingdom.
Yeah.
So that was the marketing thing.
But why is it not being marketed after Earthrise? Or presumptively Earthrise?
Because we already know about Earthrise. It wouldn't be
That's
hype.
what Paul's point is. It doesn't make sense to advertise 3 before 2.
Yeah.
If they were showing the toys off the same day, even though they pretended Earthrise Season 2 didn't exist, it would make a little more sense. But those toys are still under lock and key. So what is going on?
This is the way to
I don't know.
hype
Why don't
maybe.
you, Paul, use some of your contacts and try to find
I'm getting in my car.
out.
I'm driving up to Rhode Island. I'm going to bang on the door and be like, Montano, it's you and me. We're getting in a room. I'm going to straighten you out.
Why haven't you announced Earthrise?
Yeah.
Just like that. Make that face.
I mean, they know what they're doing. Whatever. It's
Or
weird.
do they? They released a show to promote toys that are no longer for sale. Do they know
They
what
are
they're
for
doing?
sale. They're selling repaints. Someone's
sale,
going to
that's
buy the
smart.
repaints.
Clearance 3 months ago.
The
They
best
were not
guy
clearance.
isn't for
None
sale.
of those toys were not clearance except for the Ultra Magnus. That was the only everything else is not clearance yet.
Okay.
But Jetfar isn't for sale, and he was the best part.
They're re-releasing him. He's up on Big Bad now.
Is he releasing?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. People can get him.
Christian is mystified right now.
What?
He
Why
is
are you
on Big Bad.
mystified?
He's on Big Bad. You can
I'm
pre-order
I'm
him.
glad someone else besides me caught that. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Are
You know,
mystified?
Sound Blaster was clearance to $7 in some places. So some of them were clearance.
He is still full price here in North Carolina.
Really?
A friend of mine bought it for $12 the other day.
I see him. Yeah, I don't go to Walmart. It's a lot right now that I've got all the Netflix figures. But when I was hunting Netflix figures, he was around.
It was.
A lot of those Megatrons too, the cell shaded ones and the normal ones, and then very few of the Netflix ones at that point.
Netflix one is good though.
That is one thing I wonder if they made a mistake by releasing so many Megatrons, because man, the shelves locally are just filled with Megatrons. They're the regular ones. And then at my Walmart, they've got these Netflix Megatrons. And now, I'm sure by Christmas time, by when the Earthrise Megatron comes out, those will be cleared out, hopefully. But, geez.
It's a lot of gray Megatrons, one after the other.
Yeah.
There's more coming.
So Anna wasn't here for us, for the first part of the show. So what is your overall opinion on the show, Anna? We gave ours. We're all kind of middling.
Well, thank you for asking. I appreciate this, and I will share with you my opinion. I actually kind of liked it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. It was a fun thing to watch with a friend. That is the way I'll put it. Watching it alone, I was talking to Christian Lucas earlier, and the way I said it was, watching it alone, I probably would have got bored and watched it over the course of 2 months, one episode every week type of deal. But watching it with a friend, I was pretty hyped and wanting to watch it and talking about it the whole time. Not really worried about talking over plot points and whatnot because it was, pretty basic, but it was fun. It wasn't bad. I was driven crazy by the character model choices. And that pretty much dug into me the whole show, is that I hated the limitation of using the toy models, which I already knew going in. But other than that, I literally liked everything about it. It had some goofy plot points. It had some holes. It had some weaknesses. But it had some good things, Elita 1 had agency. I never expected to have a new Transformers cartoon with a woman Transformer with agency. Come on.
She was so important.
It was nice. And Jetfire was cool because he was just Dinobot. There were things in it that I didn't expect that I really liked. And I did enjoy watching it. It just wasn't it didn't blow me away. And earlier, we kind of talked about how I do think that as far as recent cartoons go, Cyberverse is a better cartoon. It is a better product. I think, G1 fans are going to like this better because it's serious and it's G1 oriented and all that good stuff. But I really do think there's been better Transformers cartoons. People like this better because it's more fan service. That's the thing. It's very, very fan servicey. So I liked it.
I'll agree with Anna on Cyberverse being a better product in the end. Whether you like this, if you don't like it because it's kiddie, whatever. But beyond that, it was a better, well-rounded, more A pluses working together than we're talking about the lighting guy versus the animation of the rigging guy.
But the other thing too is that Cyberverse was a show on, is it on Cartoon Network? I can't remember. Yeah, right. It's on an actual network, not Netflix and all that. And it's been a show running for multiple years and whatnot. I'm assuming the budget is probably higher for that show than it is this one. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I wouldn't know.
The short version, Anna, is that your opinion's approximately in line with ours.
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah, none of us hated it, but none of us were holy God, it's the best thing ever. Whatever. It's all it's okay. It's watchable.
I definitely didn't sit there thinking ooh, you ruined my favorite thing or anything like that. And even though my favorite Transformer dies horrifically, it wasn't even that big of a deal because, there's also that moment where I was talking to someone about the concept of canon and how this is pretty much a retelling of G1, right? This is a retelling of the first 8 minutes of G1 type of deal is a way to think of it. And therefore, it doesn't actually exist in the same single universe. I know Transformers is a multiverse, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really exist in that same universe. So that wasn't by Ultra Magnus. By Ultra Magnus died horrifically multiple times and got better over and over. This Ultra Magnus only died horrifically once, and who cares?
So one thing that
you mentioned,
sorry, go Go on.
Anna mentioned the first 8 minutes of G1, the show. I feel like it's a real missed opportunity to have Soundwave done the Secret Street Light mode. He didn't do it.
Yeah.
He didn't turn into anything.
That's true.
Like a lot of them.
I was gonna say one
It feels like
thing
the
that I've
Streetlight
really
isn't that much of a departure from the model, though. I mean, it's just no head.
But his
and the
toy
arms
can
stick
do
out.
it. His toy can do it, though.
And it's on the box. It's on that secret flap on the box. It's like, ooh, it's a secret in joke.
One thing I was gonna bring up is that I really enjoy how they've like had female Transformers and like integrated those into the shows recently, like in the movies, and it's just felt natural, and like they've been some of the best characters. Like the Bumblebee movie, like the they had, I can't, which one was it? What's the name? Shatter was a female, and then on RID that they had that they've had them like in all the kids shows and whatnot. But like Alita 1, and I know like the comments have kind of been saying that like she really stole the show, and it was one of the best characters, and you know probably helped out by as one of the better voice acting jobs too. You know, but she was great in the show, and
the only thing
nice.
The only thing I didn't like is when she's like, "Let's execute Bumblebee." Like, whoa, calm the fuck down.
I love that.
I thought that was out of place for an Autobot. It reminded me gave me a flashback of like Hound in the Bay movies when he like kills the alien thing that's like in the ship or whatever. It's just like, what are y'all doing? You're supposed to be freedom is the right of all sentient beings, not haha, kill that bitch, or whatever he says. He says something like that.
It is something like that. I want to say while we're talking about Alita, though, what do you guys think about the fact that there was only one character model used on two characters with good... It was just RC and Alita who weren't toy models. What did you guys think of that? Do you feel like it threw things off to have, you know, two characters that were not toy models? Because everyone else was walking toys.
I thought there were toy models.
I
mean, they don't have the back. She didn't have the huge backpack or whatever. She lost that thing, but like
they were cartoonified versions of the same thing the toy was capturing, but the legs were different, the bodies were changed significantly, whereas the other characters were straight moving toys. You know, they even had the little, they even had the packs. Oh, you're right. B was there too. B was another exception. He was not his toy.
Like
you're right, Anna.
They blended.
None of them are straight up the toy. They're very close. Like the hollow legs are gone. Impactor isn't walking. You know what I'm saying? Like they've all been filled out to that degree. But like, if that panel's on the toy, that panel's on the model. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that. Like if the front face is all there.
Backpack is
all of them got, but all of them got that tweak except for Alita 1 and the females who kind of like had like a little bit bigger hips.
But I wonder if part of it is they didn't, at the time that they did the show, they didn't have that toy to model. Like,
it's entirely possible.
I don't know, because again, Bumblebee would have been the same way because they didn't have a Bumblebee toy based on it, but like everything else did. So
was Moonracer changed the same way? Moonracer and Chromia, or were they?
They were the toy.
Chromia was the toy.
Moonracer was Chromia, not Moonracer.
Yeah, Moonracer literally did not have her own head, and that was infuriating. But
RC really bothered me. It looked really out of place to me.
Yeah,
she
RC
did
look out of place. You're right.
You know why? Because she wore Cog for a second. Cog was the blockiest character, and she was just a woman robot. So when she wore him, it really pulled out the fact that she was one of the three characters that were not the toy models, that she was a smooth, humanoid-looking figure. So I think it really drew attention to it. I don't think it matters so much. I think it kind of like draws a line between the man and woman robots, which is awkward, except for Bumblebee. But I just thought it stood out. It was just kind of a weird thing to see. You know, there were just a couple characters who weren't the toys. They don't even have the pegs.
I liked Alita, though. I thought she had... Now that you're right, she wasn't exactly the toy model. And I mean, I kind of wish all the other characters got that same treatment.
I know.
Like they just got anime-fied just enough to be a little more like interesting. Look, you can do some cool poses and stuff. You know, that's why cell-drawn animation can get more interesting than something that's restricted by, physics of actually being a model.
Because they even went so far is sometimes when they move their wrist, you could see that their hands were literally on ball joints that plugged into their wrists. Like, they went so far to make them toys that they were that much. And then, Alita, Bumblebee, and RC were not that. It's just a little bit inconsistent. Like Paul said, it would have been nice to see everyone like that.
It was an interesting choice for sure. I don't think it was the worst choice.
No.
Like, I don't hate it, but yeah, it does lead to some odd things.
It didn't even upset me. Like, it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, man, they're not their toys. I know the toys are coming, and they're totally not their toys, but I still like them. I mean, I like having woman characters that had agency and did things and were kind of cool, and that was fine. I just thought it was weird that they weren't their toys, and especially Bumblebee, too, considering we've known he was going to be Cliffjumper forever.
And Cliffjumper got his model.
Right. He got Bumblebee's model.
Yeah. Well, no, Cliffjumper became a red Bumblebee.
Yeah.
He was not the Earthrise toy.
Sure? Okay.
Yeah, he even has the same horns.
Okay.
So at least that's what I saw.
I mean, and again, though,
I have it on.
RC, Alita 1, and Cliffjumper are all Earthrise toys. They just didn't have they didn't have it in time. I think that's the short end of it. Which is
fine. It was a little weird looking.
Yeah.
Not bad. It just makes him look better than everybody else.
Wheeljack's an Earthrise toy, and he had his.
That's true. He did.
Maybe they only had time for Wheeljack, and they're just like,
right.
They're like, we're out. We can't.
I'm kind of the opinion that they may have designed all these toys ahead of, like, in the beginning, and then now are releasing them as they see fit.
Yeah.
But we'll never know. Well, it's a dumb hypothesis.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But I think it's so crazy that those 3A toys coming out that are based on the screen thing, like, that are based on the toys. I'm like, so I've
Christian Psy is my opinion.
I've seen some further ones of the Megatron. The Megatron actually looks really good. I actually might be tempted by that one, but like the Optimus, I don't know, man. Like that huge backpack and all that on it, which was prominently featured in the show. But man, like I don't know, spending a couple $100 on something that's so close to the toy. I mean, it'll have really neat articulation, but then the toys have really pretty good articulation. So I don't know.
It's a hard sell.
I don't know why you wouldn't just use the $50 toy.
Right. No, it's kind of like it's really cool to think, and just after watching the show, like the change, in my opinion, towards these toys was pretty dramatic. Because now when I look at them, I'm like, ooh, these are masterpiece versions of Transformers Siege cartoon toys. Because they're exact, right? They are exactly the things that I saw on screen. So they're already the perfect versions of those characters. Which that impacts you, right? Like, you want them to look just like the animation. That's a desire we all have. And that desire is automatically fulfilled for these guys because it was reversed. Yeah. It was just interesting to even try to improve it afterwards.
Which company was making the statues? Was that 3A?
3A, yeah.
3-0,
sorry.
Right.
Sorry, 3-0.
So Anna's totally going to buy a statue when they do the Moon Racer statue. Or whatever
they're not statues. They're actually they're actually action
yeah.
figures, not because they have really good articulation and all that. So
like
I would buy a Starscream.
I would definitely buy zombie food if they make her.
So since Anna was talking about masterpiece versions of things that she saw on the screen, I poked fun at you just a little bit. So we saw a lot of Refractor, right? Throughout the show, he's one of the biggest generics. And I noticed that his arms move just fine. He's got plenty of shoulders, and they work appropriately, and he's a good robot.
Were they the toy or not? Because I didn't look that closely. Like, did the shoulders move wrong?
They move like shoulders.
Hey, can you guys put your microcaster's baggage back into your Tuesday box?
We'll argue about this tomorrow.
Just kidding.
When we talk about a completely unrelated toy that wasn't in the show.
Everybody watch Microcasters Tuesday nights on Facebook to see these three hate each other.
There you go.
Let's fulfill that.
All right. So, Yeah, Microcasters, Tuesday night on the tftalk.net Facebook page at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Tomorrow night we're doing Skylinks, so that should be a lot of fun. So, and
they're going to try to convince me to sell superior links and get inferior links.
Hey man, I did it last week. I did that exact thing last week.
I know you did.
Christian already sold his, so
But
I
Christian
don't
hates
think it's
third
going to
party.
happen because playing with this, I've
He doesn't
really
have
had a
third
lot
party.
of fun playing with this. But we'll see. Sometimes you have fun playing with toys. Which was the whole point of this cartoon, to make us have more fun playing with them, because now we can reenact all the deaths.
Yay.
And then Wednesday night, are we doing Ouch My Wallet, Rob?
If I can find people, I have stuff. So
There you go.
I got some things.
All right.
all right.
Wow.
Now that you're giving me 2 weeks, I got to keep reloading.
And then TF Talk News dropped overnight as well, so check that out. They go through some of the toys for the Siege show, right? Is that
And
right?
give some advice on buying them.
It was kind of like, instead of I think what it did was, instead of like a review of the show like we did tonight, it was more like an in-depth look at what you saw on screen versus what we saw in plastic, and like the dynamics between them, and if you want to buy them, how to get them.
Yeah, who's there, who wasn't, like Scrapface, which will be the greatest Transformer mystery of all time, is why was Scrapface not in the show?
Like if I go to Toy Fair again this year,
Yes.
I am definitely asking, yo, why wasn't Scrapface in the show?
Like, I feel like Christian at some
Everyone.
point, me and you had a discussion on one of the shows about Scrapface, and you're like, oh, he's totally going to show up, and I'm like, he's going to be a red shirt at best, and he
Right.
didn't even get that.
He
He
didn't
wasn't even a
show
red
up.
shirt.
He was
lost
wearing
his
a shirt.
gut.
Presents all those red shirts, but he himself wasn't there. It's weird.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I expected the exact same thing. I expected him to be like amidst other reflectors. Wrong.
Yeah.
Nope.
The thing that I would love to see is that black and gold Seeker. That was
one looked
cool. Every
Well,
time I
nice.
saw him on
Prominent.
screen, I was like, "Oh, give me that one!"
I felt
was
like there
with
was
him.
a prominent repaint in the show. It wasn't like just in the background or whatever. He was like at the front with the crew several times, to the point where I remembered him. Whereas like that and like Green Cog, that's like the two colors that really stood out to me, or recolors.
Was Hotlink on the show?
Oh yeah.
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 I couldn't
I thought
couldn't
he
tell
got
which one it
wasted
was.
in the first scene.
I think a
Like,
bunch
yeah,
of
I
hot
don't
links
know
were
if that was
there.
another.
They usually come
Probably
like
one
6
more.
or 8 in a package.
There were multiple.
I see what you
Hotlinks.
did there.
Get it?
Yeah, I was gonna
Weird.
say I couldn't tell.
Sausage. And Sam is sorry, but I'm not.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, am I the only one who didn't realize that Skywarp was killed?
No, I just.
Was
they
that-
said he
was that
got
Skywarp
killed later.
or was
He
that
looked
somebody else?
Fine. Last time we saw
He
him.
didn't seem very killed.
Like,
Well, I don't know if it
Jetfire
was a
shot-
random
shoots him
other
and he's like,
Seeker.
he's like, I'm sorry. And then he just flies off to his buddies. And then later Starscream's like, he's dead now. And he never shows up again. It's like,
yeah, he's dead.
it's like, oh, so he got shot by a mortal wound, gets back to his allies, and they're just like, well, you're going to die.
He was
You
kind
know
of
what's
like
gonna leave you
fluttering
here?
out.
They're gonna flashback next season, and Starscream killed him to assert his dominance over the rest of the Seekers.
That would be
That's nice.
awesome. That
But
would
he
be.
was kind of sputtering out when he gave Starscream his report. He was like, ugh, Jetfire
Yeah.
did bad. Ugh.
You know, he really should have flew to like Ratchet or literally anyone other than Starscream.
Right.
I didn't get that was even a killing shot. I thought he was just
Not
like,
either.
you're not coming in here.
Well, he hardly shot him. He like shot him in the rib.
It's just a flesh
He
wound.
seemed fine. I was like, whatever.
Did anyone expect Jetfire to be like, I'm an Autobot now? And like,
I
see
know.
that thing
I was
like,
totally
Yes!
expecting
I
that.
would have
Yeah.
been so bad. I'd be
what
like,
happened?
I kept waiting for him to like just literally rip it out. Like even if it didn't flip or anything,
do
just
the
like,
toy thing. Do the thing. He didn't do the thing.
didn't do the thing.
Ah, I have a cat.
I mean, are we wrapping up here, Lucas?
Pretty much.
Oh, God,
yeah.
He did the advertising.
I hope so.
Okay, yeah.
You did the
You did the advertisement. I'm like, oh shoot, I thought
We were wrapping up, and then somehow we got
then we
another
weren't.
tangent. Yeah.
What ship was coming close at the end?
Astro Train.
What? I missed that.
The very last scene of this
I don't-
of the whole thing.
I think I was mad that there was an atmosphere, so I missed it.
Post credits.
Yeah, it was post credits.
Or was
Oh,
it actually? It was
Oh.
pre-credits, but it was
Pre-credits.
post
Was it
Fade to
pre-credits?
Black.
Whatever. It was
oh,
way
that's
better.
right. Yeah.
And
Man, I
then
completely
When
forgot.
the ship approaching or whatever.
They tried to do the dumb Marvel thing. Yeah.
Also,
Astro Train was
Teletran's
last
voice was
season.
the worst.
Aw.
Teletran voice.
Who's
What was the
coming?
Who's
is
coming? It's the Mercs. It's Double Dealer.
Astro Train.
It's Double Dealer and the Horror Cons and oh my god, what are you doing? Get away. Go.
It's Astro
Totally-
Zaldron
Very
says
double
Scorpion
deal.
Eye.
Totally the
So
quintessence.
big. So
Okay, it could be the Quintessence.
100% the quintessence. Although I do like the mercenaries idea. That's cool.
It's Exhaust and the Horror Cons and Double Dealer. They're showing up.
all inside of Astro Train.
Who's to say the Quintessons aren't
Astro
part of
Train
the
got killed.
mercenaries?
No, he didn't. He's fine.
Yeah, the quintessence maybe hired the mercenaries.
That's I like that.
They're
They're mastermindy types with all their tentacles. You know, they push the buttons.
They have a ship made of slither fangs.
Ooh. Slither fang.
All right. Well, yeah. I think. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up? So we don't. We're going on almost 2 hours now.
My final thought is
Long
one
as
of
the
our
show is.
right. My final thought is one of our viewers mentioned that there might be humans in the sequel. None of us
No.
want that,
Humans.
No.
but it's probably
humans.
going to happen. Next.
I mean, I think there will be humans in the background because it's going to be Earthrise, and they're going to be on Earth, but hopefully nothing prominent.
Look, man, Earth can rise and they don't have to be on Earth.
Maybe
Like,
there
they
will
can
be
get to Earth for
three.
Kingdom. In the
Maybe there will
time
be
frame.
3 human characters and then a whole bunch of recolors of them in the background.
There you go.
So maybe if they bring back Marky Mark and he's in there, that he could be the one human.
It's a Transformer.
A bunch of Marky Marks in different colored t-shirts.
Hey, Optimus Prime, say hello to your mother for me.
I gotta flex my biceps. Look at this warm Bud Light I found on the street.
Oh man.
All right, Paul, any final thoughts?
I already did it. The ship at the end.
The ship thing. All right, Christian.
Marky Mark was my final thought.
Okay. All right.
Hundreds of
Well,
different colored shirts.
I appreciate everyone participating in the chat. Thanks to Zaldron. Thanks to Crimson Raptors. Thanks to Demelvar, Jazzmeister, Chris, Enots, Jay Zachary. I think if there's anybody else, Aries.
That's like a solid amount of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat commenting this time. So yeah, I appreciate
fun.
everybody doing that. So it was a lot of fun, and thank you everyone, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.